You got to mind your trucking business day after day, night after night. Cause if you mind your trucking business, you're gonna succeed, you're gonna be alright. We're gonna talk about hours of service and federal regulation, logs, taxes, IFTA, fuel and maintenance, insurance, permits and tags, hiring and firing and heavy use tax. Make sure you get paid for your loads. Hurry up and wait. It's a whole thing, you know. Delivery, docking, managing your routes. And don't forget about taking care of your health. You got to mind your trucking business day after day, night after night. Cause if you mind your trucking business, you're gonna succeed, you're gonna be alright. You're gonna succeed, you're gonna be alright. So mind your trucking business. So mind your trucking business.
You're listening to Mind Your Trucking Business on TNCRadio.live, where James Rogers, Jamie Irvine, and Tom Kelly provide owner-operators of commercial trucks with expert advice about starting, operating, and growing a professional trucking fleet. It's time to mind your trucking business.
Hi, and welcome in TNCRadio.live. This is Mind Your Trucking Business. I'm Tom Kelly here along with Jamie Irvin and James Rogers. Guys, I hope you're doing well this week. You doing all right?
Oh, I'm great. Doing great.
Great. James, tell us what's going on with you.
Oh, well, I just, it's been out working this week myself, been in a truck for the last couple of days, and got the pleasure of traveling to the Southeast for a day or two, and now I'm back home in the Midwest.
Fantastic. And Jamie, what's up with you this week?
My week keeps getting better and better. I took 2 COVID tests, so I definitely didn't have COVID, but I picked up a bug and I was feeling pretty rough. And as the week's gone on, I've gotten better and better. So I am a happy guy. I might actually get a weekend coming up because last weekend I spent it at home sick.
Oh, that's not fun.
Not fun at all. But hey, over the last couple of years, it's kind of funny. We've been isolated so much that we, in some ways, I don't know, maybe my immune system's down or whatever. And now I'm back out and I'm doing a lot more traveling, and I seem to be picking up all the little bugs and flus and stuff that I didn't get, the 2 years that I was locked down and had to stay at home.
And you're not washing your hands every 10 minutes too.
Yeah. I stopped bathing with, what's the stuff that's in the pump, the, hand sanitizer. I stopped bathing with that. So
Yeah. I don't take a bath in that anymore either. So Jamie, we have a lot of stuff on our plate to cover this evening, and one of the things we're going to talk about is the current status of autonomous trucking.
Cybersecurity, that's really what the heart of what we want to talk about today is. And I think when most people, when you think of cybersecurity and you add the word trucking to that, the first thing people do think about is this future that seems to be, it's out there somewhere in the future. We don't know exactly when it's going to be prolific, where all of our commercial vehicles are autonomous. I think there's some people that are very bullish on that, and there's a lot of people in the trucking industry who are quite skeptical. But right away, the thought is, okay, we've got these autonomous vehicles and they're testing them on the roads now. One day in the future, they're going to be in regular use. I think of a lot of the security and the concerns that North Americans have, both in the US and in Canada, about things like, for example, mass shootings, right? We're exposed to that. We see that in the news when it happens. It's an absolute tragedy. But when we start thinking about autonomous vehicles and cybersecurity, I start to think of a world where there's some hacker sitting overseas getting control of a autonomous truck and trailer and using it as a weapon against North American citizens. Is that real, Tom? Is that something we should be worried about? How susceptible are we to those kinds of massive cybersecurity risks related to autonomous vehicles and telematics?
Yeah, that's the question I have coming, kind of from the driver perspective, and as a carrier that I hear a lot when anytime that subject comes up is, how much is this real? And then of course, you hear the myth, the myths of everything that was just mentioned, but it's obviously it's more dramatic coming from a truck driver because it's a serious concern. So what is the reality of it?
Okay, well, okay, so some of the different things that are out there. For instance, you guys might have heard that it is possible, if somebody hooks up the right thing to your truck, that they could, from another vehicle, maybe not take control, but do something with your truck. Say slam on the brakes or cause it to not be able to shift properly or something like that. And I want everybody to know, and you can double check on all this. That's absolutely true.
So we don't even have to wait till autonomous vehicles. That's true today.
That's true right now today. If you have the regular plug in your computer where they plug in the computer to test your engine and do all the different things that they can do, if you have that plug, there is something that we could put against that would pick up a signal that we could adjust. Now, you can go out and watch these. They're only 3 or 4 or 5 minutes YouTube videos that show them doing this. They do not describe exactly which truck it is, and as far as brands, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of. The point is, we already have vulnerabilities just in the computer systems we have on the trucks right now.
So Tom, let me ask you something about that. So I was doing some reading about the diagnostic ports related to some work that we were doing over at the Heavy Duty Parts Report, because of course we're all about parts and maintenance. And I know that there's like the OBD2 and the J1913, and then there's the J1939. So any of you listening today, we're talking about that diagnostic port where people are going to plug in to be able to get fault codes, to be able to get access to the ECM and see what's going on with your truck. That's the point of entry that creates the security risk. Do I have that right?
Correct. Especially the J1913. That means because it's been out there for a long time. It has a standard set of the so you can take your truck, whether you're in Canada, the U.S., and whether you live if you're in New York, you go to California, or California, you go to Florida. You can go to a technician, and they all use the same standard of equipment to talk to that port.
So that port, well, every truck's got that port. Far back as I can remember, I mean, at least 2005. Right. And now you can literally plug into that and have control of the truck on the safety systems like the brakes or even acceleration or even shifting. But then also on top of that, and the way technology is going now too, at the current time, to go with that is that the ELDs also plug into those ports, and then you could also plug something else so they have complete access.
Theoretically, yes.
Wow.
Has anybody tested it to the level of could you drive the truck from the diagnostic port? I don't think it has the throughput to fully do that, but can I impact the truck and do something to it to make it that the driver can't do what they want to do with it? Yes. Now, is it already set up in such a way that I can just drive by any truck and do that? No, heavens no. I would have to have physical access to your truck and get in there and do some stuff to it to be able to impact you and to make change. But it's not to the point where somebody can just, drive up to any, behind any truck and say, hey, watch, I'm going to take control of this truck. We're not there.
That's where the truck driver comes in. And I've heard that question asked is, what if we were in a shop and somebody put a Bluetooth device in there that we don't see?
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a concern.
Could they have something? Let's not call it Bluetooth because it could be any kind of wireless networking.
Right, yeah, okay, wireless.
So could they put some kind of device there that you can't see to impact change on your truck? Is that possible? The answer is yes, it's possible. Could they take control and just start driving the truck? I don't think neither the technology nor the strength of signal nor the, you couldn't do more from that port than you can do from, any diagnostic work that you do now.
What about the signal strength about like how Volvo, and I think now Peterbilt does it, and I want to say Mack, some of the truck makers, how they have their self-identification thing where they can actually see the codes that are going on with these trucks. They kind of work over a radio signal or some sort of FM signal. I mean, is it possible even through that?
Not yet. Let me kind of think through that a minute.
Well, James, you bring up a good point, though, because as telematics and also as the integration of our 5G network in conjunction with self-driving technology, this is where you're going to have to be able to communicate with the vehicle remotely for all kinds of reasons, all the way from driving right down to maintenance and repair. So are we that vulnerable yet? No, but that's just because the technology hasn't gotten there yet. And it is fast approaching. I mean, every manufacturer that I talk to, this is the future. For service and maintenance, the holy grail is to be able to have a customer say, I'm having a problem, and for you to be able to ping that truck wherever it is. And before that truck gets towed into the repair shop or drives into the repair shop, the parts are waiting, the tech is waiting, knows exactly what to do to fix that truck. Like, that's the holy grail of maintenance and service that the truck OEs and service providers and parts providers are chasing. And to me, when you marry that to self-driving technology, this is where this big vulnerability comes in if we don't get the security protocols right.
And that's what they're working on right now. And what we're waiting to see the final write-up on are they call it the J1939-91. And there's an A, B, and C. And this is all about securing the network of the truck. There's a network. Think of your truck as its own network and all the different things that have to talk within the truck. We have to secure that network first. Okay.
And Tom,
secure everything that's coming in and out of the truck. Okay. You get so for just like if you were going to secure your home, you secure your own locks first. Make sure that nobody can get in. Then you worry about who's coming up and down the street.
Right. I mean, it does. I mean, it reminds me of Skynet when watching the Terminator back in the day. That's what it reminds me of.
And it should. Yeah, it's not that far off.
Man.
So Tom, you talk about being able to secure the truck, and I think right now the thing that people need to know is that there is possible vulnerability, but they still need physical access to your truck. In the future, as this evolves, we're going to definitely keep you up to date on what security you need for your truck and for your business. But in our next segment, I'm looking forward to learning about how vulnerable we are as individuals. And James, you're going to be put on the hot seat a little bit because we did a little digging on you and we found a bunch of information. So when we get back from our break, I'm really looking forward to talking to you, everyone, or showing everyone rather, just how vulnerable we as individuals might be. You've been listening to Mind Your Trucking Business. We'll be right back.
Join Tom Kelly and the rest of the team each day on the Morning Grind. Then stay tuned for an encore presentation of last night's Landline Now. Weekdays on TNCRadio.live. You're listening to Mind Your Trucking Business on TNCRadio.live.
Catch Landline Now every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, along with an encore presentation weekdays at noon, right here on TNCRadio.live.
I'm Hope Savara. Join us on TNCRadio.live at 7 p.m. Eastern with Building Strong Minds with your host, Dr. Christopher Cortman.
Hey, you're listening to TNC Radio Live, and this is Mind Your Trucking Business. My name is Jamie Irvin, and I'm with my esteemed co-hosts, Tom Kelly and James Rogers. In our first segment, we were talking about cybersecurity, how it relates to autonomous vehicles, how it relates to your truck right now, and what you need to know. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about personal security for the next couple segments. But to just illustrate how vulnerable we as individuals can be to cybersecurity threats, we put our co-host on the hot seat. So James Rogers, we found out a bunch of information about you without you even realizing it. All we did was we took your email address and we found some very, very detailed information about you. Are you ready to find out just what kind of information we were able to find?
I don't know. That sounds like a loaded question. I mean, we got the little beep button over the easy button. Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. Well, we promised not to reveal any personal details, but for the point of illustration, Tom, can you just show us what kind of information was accessible simply by knowing what James's email address was?
Yeah, this started last week, James, because you had to drive, and Jamie and I were here without you, and so we picked on you since you.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, punishment.
And
well, that's what you get for not showing up, James.
So Jamie challenged me to, because I was saying all of our stuff's already. People, I'm not going to fill out that form. I don't want people knowing my personal stuff. They already got it, guys. They already got it. They've already got it. And so to prove my point, Jamie challenged me, and so here are the rules of the challenge. I only had your email address, James, and I know your name,
right?
And I had 1 hour.
Oh wow,
that was my constriction. Okay,
now I'm really afraid.
Yeah, out of that, there's all sorts of things I could tell you. I could tell everybody about where you live. You live in a nice house there in the middle of Missouri, not far from the Mississippi River. Matter of fact, I'm looking at a very nice picture of your home right now, which you purchased in October of 2015, paying roughly $82 a square foot. You worked out a pretty good deal because the owner before wanted a lot more than that, but you kept working them down where they dropped the price a couple of times, and then when you got in there to negotiate, you got them to come down on the price a bit more. So you worked a good deal with the previous owner, so you got a good deal on the house. It's worth about twice as much now as when you paid.
Yeah. Come on, really?
Yeah.
So James, I got to know, man, just to sit on this hot seat and have somebody know that much information already. This is just a few minutes of searching. How does that make you feel?
I feel violated. I feel violated. I feel like I have no protection. I mean, I'm a disabled vet, and we took personal security highly. And I thought the keyword's thought. I thought I brought that out in the civilian world when I retired, and I do. I feel violent. I want to go take a shower.
Well, Tom, I think
you are the principal owner of Spartan Direct LLC.
Yes, sir.
Which you officially formed on June the 14th, 2017, which, by the way, happy anniversary from last week.
Thank you.
And happy anniversary, too, to you and your lovely wife.
Yeah. Really? Come on. You can see that, too?
Yeah. So I see that you guys just celebrated your anniversary. So congratulations for that as
Thank
well. I could give you your corporation number, but I won't do that.
No.
On air. But basically, I can give you what is your corporation's Social Security ID number.
Holy cow.
And so all of that information, again, I stayed within the hour. I learned a lot about your wife. I know all sorts of things about and struggles that she had growing up.
Oh, wow.
I know about where you grew up there in New York.
Really?
Yeah. Is it Castley? How do you say that name?
Yep. Castile. Yep. You can see, man.
So, yeah. And Castile, what a nice little a quaint town, they say. It's very nice. And Mom still lives up there, huh?
He does. Really? You know what? I need to enter the witness protection program. That's what I need to be re-educated on what I need to do, because it does. I'm sitting right here, and it's like you had an hour, and you know just that amount. I mean, just the fact that you know my business EIN that easy is concerning.
It is, and so I don't say all of this to frustrate you or to frustrate people, but to kind of awake everybody up. One of the things that, and this is an important takeaway in all of this, very seldom are computers actually hacked. People say, "Oh, I was working on my computer, somebody hacked in on it." It's actually people who are hacked.
Yeah.
Okay? It is going out and getting this information and then using it against you. Okay? My son has never been to Canada in his life. But his step-grandmother got a call one day, and the person knew enough about her and enough about my son to tell her he had been arrested and was in Canada and needed $10,000 for bail money. And it was only the very alert person at the bank who said, something's not right. This woman has never walked in and asked for $10,000 cash before. I'm not trusting this. This is an issue. We need to stop this and talk to her about what's really going on.
How does that, okay, you used the key phrase there was people are hacked. So how are people hacked?
Because think of all this knowledge that I have about you now.
Right.
Okay, and if you and I were strangers and I was to call you up and start describing myself as an attorney or as a business colleague of somebody else or a friend of the family or what, and get you to a position of, and the whole idea of these guys is you've got money in your pocket that I want to get in my pocket, right?
Right.
So with all this information that I have, there's, and I would come in, of course, with, the people who do this are very, very skilled. Okay. And that's where they hack you. Okay. Because they know just what to say. They've got your hot buttons, and they're masters of psychology, and they really know how to work somebody to make it so that you will gladly hand them money.
See, that's
you'll never see again.
Yeah, that's even more concerning and makes me feel even more open because, I don't do it because obviously I'm running my company and I'm home, quite often. But speaking from a driver's perspective, if you're out on the road and you receive them phone calls, sometimes you might continue the conversation just because you're having somebody to talk to and not even really realize what this skilled individual is doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the thing that I'm thinking about too is that, as human beings, we're very social, and we are wired to be part of a group. And so if somebody uses the right psychological levers to establish some rapport with us and some trust, all of a sudden our defenses just drop to zero. And that's when we're truly at risk. So one thing I'm hearing in all of this, in some ways, James, I'm almost glad that Tom is telling us that it's less likely our computer is going to be hacked and more likely the person. And the reason why is because with education, we can actually defend against this. And that's why this conversation today is so important.
Well, you're absolutely correct. And then another question I would have is it's a term that I heard in the military a lot. So, they have this conversation, they get it. And what about, where do phishing attacks come in this? Because I'm sure that at some point somebody's going to say, well, let me send you an email or send you a text message.
And phishing is a part of all this, and phishing that's spelled with a PH, not
right.
Phishing is a part of this overall grand scheme. Okay. And I'm not trying to make people paranoid, but I'm also not underselling it. It's a grand scheme.
Ooh.
There are a lot of people who are out there who their whole purpose in life is to figure out who's making an honest living and get them to give you their money. Okay, they want your money, and they're going to figure out ways to get it. And it will be things like you probably today, somebody listening today got a text message that said something about your bill is ready to be approved from someplace you don't even recognize.
Just so everybody knows, I'm broke.
and that's part of what they do. So you click on this little thing. I'm not going to approve them. And what is this? And you click on it. They got you.
Just that easy.
That's all they needed.
Okay, so we've established that this is legitimate. We should be worried about it, but that there is a way to defend against these strategies, and that is through education. So when we come back in our next segment, we're going to give you the top 5 ways you can protect yourself personally. And James, I hope you're going to take notes, because, man, it looks like you need a little bit of help in this, just like the rest of us do.
I have my notebook and pen ready.
All right. So you are listening to Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live. We will be right back.
It's Landline Now, followed by Steve Summers' Overnight Drive every night on tncradio.live, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern and 10 p.m. Central.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is boosting the image of the industry by telling the story of trucking, and your story can be part of it. Upload a photo, tell us what you love about trucking, or send us a story about a good deed or charitable act in trucking. Be sure to follow us on social media and contact us through truckingmovesamerica.com. That's truckingmovesamerica.com. 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Driving in the heat can create dangerous situations for truck drivers. Drivers need to take specific precautions before hitting the road in extreme heat. When there's an incoming heat wave, drivers need to be aware of how to safely drive in these weather conditions. Follow the Truckers Network's 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Every truck driver needs to complete a pre-trip inspection before driving, especially in hot weather. Check your tires. Heat can have a huge effect on your tires. As the temperature increases, so does the air pressure in your tires. During the hottest months of the year, it's important to frequently check your tire pressure. Frequently checking your tires can save you from a blowout. To get an accurate measurement, wait for your tires to cool down before checking the pressure. The heat and friction from the road causes your tires to warm up, which will cause a rise in tire pressure. Also, don't be afraid to take a break every couple of hours to let your tires cool down. Protect your engine. Not only should you protect yourself from the heat, but you should also protect your engine. One way to keep your engine from overheating is to frequently check the engine oil. The oil keeps the engine cool and keeps the parts running smoothly. Engine coolant is just as important as engine oil. Coolant helps prevent the engine from overheating in extremely hot temperatures. Keep an eye on the coolant temperature gauge while driving. If the gauge goes above the safe temperature, pull over and see what's going on. Failing to look at the situation could lead to engine failure. Also, make sure to check for leaks in the hoses. A cracked hose can lead to engine failure. Check your brakes. Cold and hot weather affect your semi-truck's brakes. When you brake, you create a significant amount of friction and your brakes become extremely hot. When you add in hot weather, your brakes have an even higher chance of failing. To avoid your brakes from failing, brake gradually to decrease the amount of heat. Also, regularly check your brake pads to ensure they're working properly. Tips to protect yourself from the hot weather. It's just as important to protect yourself during extremely hot weather. Follow these tips to keep yourself cool and safe. Stock up on water. As the temperature increases, you need to increase your water intake. Make sure to always have water in your truck. You never know when you might get stuck in traffic or break down on the side of the road. Wear sunscreen. Many truck drivers forget this step. Even when you're in your truck, you're still exposed to the harmful UVA rays. Make sure to put sunscreen on before hitting the road. Wear light-colored clothes. Light-colored clothing reflects light, and dark-colored clothing absorbs it. Wearing light-colored, loose-fitting clothes helps you stay cooler and more comfortable. Be sure to listen to Building Strong Minds with Dr. Chris, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on tncradio.live.
Welcome back to Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie Irvin, and I'm with Tom Kelly and James Rogers. In our second segment, we kind of put you on the hot seat, James, and we showed people just how vulnerable we all are with our personal information. Have you recovered, my friend?
I hope. I do. I feel weak. I feel wide open right now. So I'm hoping that Tom can educate me on what I need to do to rectify this so he can't find me again. This is alarming.
That's right. Okay, so what we're going to do in this segment is we're going to provide you with the top 5 ways you can provide or you can improve your own personal security, and that through this education that you're going to get in this segment, it's going to help you to defend against these kinds of attacks on our personal security. So, Tom, what is the number one thing we need to know? What is the number one tactic we can employ to protect our personal information?
Well, the number one thing is passwords are the key. Okay, but making sure, and look, we all do it. Okay, we're all bad about you've got a password and maybe you have 1, 2 exclamation point that follows it, and then on another system it's 3, 4 exclamation point, and on this one over here it's you capitalize the third letter but not on this, and you've got your own little system. Their systems are so much better. They know all your system. You're not going to come up with a magic way to have the same password pretty much everywhere, with just a slight variation, and not have them figure it out.
James, let me ask you something. When you were in the military, I assume that security is very important. And did they provide you with like specific instructions on how, as someone in the military, you had to conduct yourself to help with security?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things obviously was, it went everywhere from, depending on the location or wherever, what we could wear and all this stuff, all the way down to using the computers and everything to, passwords had to be a certain way, whether it was, it could be between 8 and 16 characters, but it's got to have this number of, numbers, letters, special punctuation, and so on. And it was in the military, it was easy because there was a constant reminder of it. And, right. And then, like I said in the previous segment, is a lot of that I thought I brought with me, but I guess I'm sitting here and I'm sitting here thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what? I really forgot doing it. And the reason I think that is because it's not in my face in my everyday life, hey, you need to update this. Hey, you need to change this. It's been 60 days. You might want to go back and change it. Or how about not use the same password for everything you use because you can't remember it,
Right. What's the joke, right? What's your password? Okay, just hang on. It's 1,
yeah,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. It does. And I'm sitting here kind of laughing at the same time because as we're talking about it, it reminds me of like that scene from the movie I think it was Hangover 2 when the guy was like, well, what's your password? Oh, it used to be baloney, but they, made me add a 1. Yeah. And it's, you know what I'm saying? So now it's baloney 1. And now I'm sitting here, I'm like, he got all that from my email, but yet I sit here and I'm listening to him and I'm like, oh my God, I do the other things too.
Yeah. So, passwords need to not be repetitive. They need to have multiple characters. Yeah. They need to have upper and lower case, and they also need to be random to a certain degree, and they need to be regularly updated and changed. Tom, what's the second thing we can do to defend against cybersecurity attacks on us as individuals?
Well, just one more thing on the password stuff is whenever you can, do use a random password generator. Okay, and then use your system, whatever system you like to use. I can't describe them all between iPhones and Macs and PCs and Androids and all that, but all have ways of storing password information that only you can get to. Do that, but always do use those random generated passwords. Those are so helpful.
Right. And in addition to that, two-party or two-factor authentication is also a great way to go along with the password, right? Because then, they might be able to hack your password, but they don't have maybe access to your physical phone. Exactly. So if you've got that second step built into your security with passwords, that's going to give you that added security.
And I know it's a hassle. And I know people, I don't want to have to put in this number every time I get in here. It's so much less of a hassle than trying to clean up.
Now, how can we, as drivers, though, speaking of an industry specific, how can we better protect ourselves with as many, like iPhones, Android, the tablets, everything that we have in our trucks? I'm going to assume that we're just as vulnerable going down the road, or if we're sitting in, these complexes that have all these wireless signals floating around may connect to it or something. It's kind of this, I feel exposed. And now I'm going to just start asking all sorts of questions.
Okay, James, well, don't rush ahead because we're going to cover that. So Tom, let's get to number two.
Number two, as much as you possibly can, encrypt your email. And especially with your business partners. This would be your customers, your suppliers, your employees, anything that you're talking that you don't want that information to be publicly available to others. Use the highest encryption that you're able to use and tell them, your customers, your employees, that I am using highly encrypted email. If you have a problem, let me know. And ask them to do the same with you. Okay. And again, I can't describe how every single email works, because this guy uses Yahoo and that one uses Gmail and this one uses Outlook, and they're all slightly different, but they all have a way to make the email. Do you want to encrypt your email?
So just so everyone understands, we're not asking you to go out and get encryption software.
No.
What we're saying is inside of your email client, there in the options, you're going to be able to go to privacy and security or security settings, and you're going to be able to select a certain level of encryption. And, like to Tom's point, depending on what email client you use, it's going to look a little different, but there is a way to do it inside of the email service that you're already using.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, Tom.
So here's an interesting point on that too. While we're talking about encryption, people ask the question: can God make a rock so big he can't pick it up? Okay, or so heavy that he can't pick it up? There is a rule, a law within the U.S. government that you cannot write encryption software that is so good that the government can't hack it. Easy. Think about that for a minute. There is a law that says, and I understand encryption software and how to put it together. I can't make it so good that the government can't get in it.
It means you're just completely vulnerable anyway.
That's a little scary, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But, just one of those things that's out there. So always do that. Now, you were asking a great question, and I want to, again, not trying to freak everybody out, just a simple rule to keep everybody safer. Take your personal products, whether it's an iPhone, Android, tablet, whatever, reboot them every day. Every day. Because it is through those types of devices that that unsavory people can get access and be able to do different things. But one of the things that they need for a lot of what they do is continued access. And as soon as
is that number 3, Tom? Restarting your device? That's our third point?
That's third point, number 3.
Number 3, okay.
Reboot your devices every day. Not so you don't have to worry so much about your home PC and that kind of stuff. But if you are a driver, you're moving from spot to spot, truck stop to drug stop, hotels, all that kind of stuff. Spoofing your phone into making it think that it's connected to McDonald's or Holiday Inn or Marriott or Love's, and in fact you're actually now working through the network that somebody else is controlling, is a very common method for people to get information off your phones. You hear all the time about a star or starlet who has her pictures show up all of a sudden on the internet. That's what they're doing. They're just hacking into her phone that way by making that phone think it's connected to something that it's not connected to, and then it's wide open. They're able to get in there and do whatever they want.
All right, Trucker Nation, you are warned, and it is very important right now that you schedule a time to restart your device starting today and make that a new daily habit. We have reviewed 3 of the top 5 things that you can do to help protect your personal information. We are going to cover the last 2 in our next segment. You've been listening to Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live, and we are going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the last 2 things you can do to protect yourself and your personal information. And then we've got some discussion about what's going on right now in the news that affects the trucking industry in a massive way. And that will be all in our next segment. We'll be right back.
Hope Savara here. Tune in every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on tncradio.live for my new show, The Driver Life Podcast. From your feet to the food you eat, from cellular health to how your cell phone affects your health, from how you move to improving your sleep. I believe it's the small, simple changes that lead to the big results in your life so that you can feel good again. We cover it all here on the Driver Life Podcast, every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on tncradio.live.
Do you have the tncradio.live app? It's free and easy to download. Just go to app.tncradio.live, Google Play, or the App Store. Get access to live streaming radio developed by drivers for drivers. Download the tncradio.live app today.
Be sure to catch the Truckers Network radio show with your host, Shelley Johnson, weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on tncradio.live.
Don't forget, you can hear all of our TNC Radio primetime shows again on our podcasts. Just go to tncradio.live/podcasts or search for tncradio.live wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back to Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live.
Welcome back to Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live. I'm Jamie Irvin, and I'm with Tom Kelly and James Rogers. James, earlier in the show, we put you on the hot seat and revealed a little bit of personal information. I'm hoping that you're feeling a little better now that you've been learning about some of the things that you can do. In our last segment, we reviewed 3 of the top 5 ways to protect your information, and I'll just quickly review those. So first of all, make sure your passwords are random and they are updated regularly. Second, we want to encrypt our email. Third, we want to restart our devices and make that a daily habit. Now, Tom, what is the 4th way that we can protect our personal information and defend against people who really pose a cybersecurity risk to us as individuals?
You know, it's so easy, and if everybody did it, it really would knock down how much people are able to hack into computers and so forth. Keep everything up to date. People don't. They see it pop up on their computer. You have updates available. If you restart, oh man, I'm not going to restart right now. I don't have time to. Or your phone says something about, they have an update available. And well, maybe it might mess something up. I don't want to mess with that right now. Last time I did it, I think it ran slower. You come up with these reasons. I don't want to take the time right now to have that download. I'm expecting a call. These are critically important things because most of the updates are security updates because they have identified a vulnerability that exists in either the computer or the cell phone or the tablet that you're using. So when they say, do this update, do it. Also know, as a part of this too, when your phone gets to the age that they no longer send out updates, you are highly susceptible for somebody cracking in, getting into your cell phone. Highly susceptible.
Got to get rid of that flip phone.
Yeah. that Crackberry you thought was going to last forever. The older the device, the more there is information out there on the dark web about how to get into it.
Well, it's funny that you brought up man, BlackBerry. That just hurts. I'm Canadian, and that just hurts my heart every time I hear the name, because at one time BlackBerry was the business phone because of how secure it was.
Yeah,
I mean, it was the leader, and it's just so sad that company did not continue to innovate and wasn't able to keep up with the likes of the Android and Apple devices. But the point is that now it's a different brand of phone that is more secure, because these are the newest and most up-to-date devices. So, James, I mean, I don't want to have to make you go buy a new phone, but you might need to go get a new device.
I mean, I'm starting to wonder. I've got I think it's an iPhone 12 or maybe it's an 11. I thought it was pretty up to date, but I'm sitting here thinking, actually, I have a whole list. Okay, we need to check our devices. I need to go back through and check all our passwords. I mean, because the thing is he didn't just mention about me. He was able to get connected to my wife, to my mother. Who else in my family did he see within that hour that, we just didn't have time to talk about? So it's like, I really need to start digging into this.
Well, and you bring up a good point, James, because if you're a driver and you're on the road a lot, someone might hack you, but then the people who could be hurt is your family or your children. And I mean, that's scary, right? Because if they can figure out where you live, they can figure out where your kids go to school.
Exactly.
Oh, I know exactly where his kids go to school.
Yeah. See, and that's the scary part, because the other thing is obviously if we're out on the road, and we'll just say if they did get in through our devices, like you said, because I'm bad about it, I don't reset my devices. I do now. But,
that's right.
Yeah, but if I'm going down the road and all of a sudden they pull up, oh, this guy lives in Missouri, but we snagged him over here in this industrial park in Jersey. We can nail his family, because his family's obviously vulnerable to us, electronically, but physically he's not there.
That's right. Okay, so what's our fifth way that we can protect ourselves from being hacked?
Well, it's not so much protecting yourself. Well, part of it is have a plan. Okay, a security plan, top to bottom, including what you're going to do if you do feel like you've been hacked. Okay, so let's start at the beginning of this. James, as everybody learned last week, and as they're getting to know you, you have several drivers that you work with, correct?
Correct.
It is on you as the business owner to make sure that they are following proper security procedures.
Yes.
And I know it sounds like, oh, I don't want to be a nag, and you've got to be a nag. You got to push the people. It's got to start with you as the business owner to make sure that everybody else around you. We talk a lot about safety, but we don't always talk about security. So have that security plan, and have the plan for excuse me.
Now you just gave me something else to worry about on top of that, because you're right, because even like with the larger carriers, and then even me as a smaller carrier, we do share apps that access into our back office.
Yep.
And with that being said, they can get in and see everything.
So
all financials, all sorts of stuff.
So if they can, but they're not secured, that leaves you vulnerable via them.
Exactly.
So have that plan, and have the plan for what's going to happen if you do get hacked. Make sure you've got proper backups and backups on top of your backups, so that if something does happen, you can restore business quickly, because the last thing you can afford to do is for me to tell you, I'm sorry, James, you've been hacked in such a way that you're not going to be able to drive for the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
You can't have something like that. That's just not
I feel a new policy coming into place.
So if you're listening live right now on tncradio.live, you may say to yourself, well, I want access to this information. Where am I going to get it when I get back to my home office? Fortunately, you can go over to our podcast section and click on Mind Your Trucking Business, which will give you this episode on demand. And you can make this part of your security plan. Step one, get all your drivers to listen to this episode on demand on the podcast, and be able to take all of this information and put it into their own personal lives, but also then you can incorporate all of this information into your security plan for your trucking business.
James, we've got a lot coming up here in the next couple of weeks. What are we going to be talking about next week?
So we're going to talk about the 23rd, the Ninth Circuit Court is going to make a decision if they want to hear the AB5 law on the upcoming docket, if they're going to table it, or if they're just not going to pick it up and hear it at all. And that's going to have a huge impact. That decision on the 23rd is going to be huge, very huge, because it could preempt a lot of other states to do what they, to follow in California's footsteps. Of course, you already mentioned about the president is wanting to bring the Congress and Senate back together for an emergency session to try to give a 90-day reprieve for the fuel tax on not only diesel, but also on gasoline. And then once again, the ongoing conversation about the diesel fuel prices they're just getting way out of control. And we don't know if there's a solution.
Well, I think that if that's not enough, I think we could probably talk for 3 or 4 entire radio shows about those subjects. But I think what's important as we look at those different government interventions is we have to look at the strategies that we have to put in place as people who are in the trucking industry to navigate these difficult times and set ourselves up for long-term success. So I think from the angle of that, we need to look at what strategies are we going to employ. And it is our solemn promise to you, the listener, that as we talk about this, we're not just going to talk about the issues. We're going to give you some real things that you can do to try to help navigate all of this. And once we get through the other side of it, that will put us in a position to have long-term success, which is so critical, because the trucking industry is the backbone of society. Without it, we're all in very big trouble.
Absolutely agree.
So, and we may even have a special guest for next week as well. So lots coming up right here on tncradio.live. And Mind Your Trucking Business.